Hello, I'm Ihor Hawryszczak. This is YouTube of Channel 24. Ex-Secretary of the Polish Delegation to the NATO Parliament, Piotr Kulpa. Piotr, greetings. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Mr. Piotr, recently there was an article in Time magazine with a picture of Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States of America, the Man of the Year, on the cover of the magazine. Fragments of his interview have appeared, among which the most interesting for us, for Ukraine, is his statement that Ukraine will not be left without support, that it will become a weapon to influence Russia to stop the war. However, he also said that he opposes the use of American equipment by the Ukrainian armed forces for strikes against Russia, as he considers it escalation. I understand it this way. We give you ammunition, but you do not use it. One more interesting detail. Trump requested his inauguration on June 20th of this year, although there is no such precedent in the practice of the United States to request the heads of other countries for inauguration. What do you think of his statements? Do you see logic in them? And should Ukraine be wary of Trump's statements? These two events are similar. He shows a strong position on one side, the statement about arms and Comrade Xi's request. This is a manifestation of a strong position, which means that he has strong arguments about both China and Russia, and he does not need to demonstrate real strength.
Это просто проявление мягкой позиции. На самом деле это значит, что как по Китаю, как
It is a force in which people can speak calmly, explaining what will happen and the consequences if the conditions are not met. Precisely the request of Xi is a lesson that shows that Russia's war in Ukraine is much more important, and he recognized that he will not be able to stop this war in 24 years. Mr. Peter, how much do you think Trump understands the situation now? Probably, they have already started working with him. They are explaining to him to make him more aware of the situation. Keith Kellogg, the special envoy, he also has a better understanding of what is happening in Russia's war against Ukraine. How much do you think Trump realizes that it's not that simple to solve, and it's far from certain that there will be a ceasefire after January 20? I believe that Trump has all the arguments, and he understands it all very well. What he may not understand are the points that are worth paying attention to, because they create the risk that Putin has additional trump cards.
Мне кажется, те моменты, на которые стоит обратить внимание, потому что они создают риск, что у Путина есть дополнительные козыри.
If we have time, I can tell you how I see it. The question is, to end this war, we need to go back to the beginning. I wrote a short article on the fourth day after the full-scale invasion, winning the war and losing the peace.
Написал такую короткую статью «Выиграть войну, не проиграть мир», которая начинается с того, что война идет, но союз старой Европы с Путиным, совместное танго.
Which starts with the fact that the war is going on, but the alliance of old Europe with Putin has broken down, and we need to understand the real extent of that alliance and its impact on the course of the war and attempts to end it.
Потому что не надо забывать, что здесь в начале этой войны это не только агрессивная политика Путина, но также холодная, пассивная, косвенная.
We must not forget that at the beginning of this war, it was not only a policy of aggression, but cold, passive, indirect aggression on the part of Germany and to some extent France. In what way was this expressed? First, Germany sponsored Putin, pumped him full of money that allowed him to plan and carry out aggression. Second, it destroyed its nuclear power to give Putin the impression that Germany was totally dependent on him. This made the alliance real. Third, Germany destroyed its army. Ursula von der Leyen, who was the minister, claimed that there were audits that showed that Germany didn't really have an army. Also, Nord Stream was built to guarantee the supply of resources during the hot phase of the war. And no one heard the outcry from Central Europe, Poland, the Baltic states, and Ukraine. Merkel told us back in the summer of 2021 that it was business and nothing more. But further, Germany ruled out its territory as a possible for transportation of military aid. It should be recalled that the aid that Ukraine received bypassed Germany. But the most convincing thing is the demand of the German authorities for the United States to
свою территорию исключила как возможную территорию для транспорта помощи военной. Надо напомнить, что помощь, которую получала Украина, это шла в обход Германии. Но самое такое убедительное это требование власти Германии
withdraw its troops from Europe. In fact, if you look at this war on a full scale, at its preparation, there is no doubt that Putin acted as a direct aggressor with guns and iron, but he had an ally who indirectly sponsored and set the stage.
У него был союзник, который косвенно, который спонсировал, который создавал условия. И на самом деле, если посмотреть, что есть в войне, с одной стороны...
If you look at what happens in war, with a sword on one side and a shield on the other, Putin using the sword was counting on Germany to take the shield, the American troops that were in German territory. So demanding that America leave was nothing more than demanding that the cops leave the area that would be given to the bandits. From this point of view, France was an ally of Germany. In his 2023 speech in Bratislava, Macron noted that in order to understand the history of this conflict, one must go back to his 2020 speech when he spoke of Russia's right to be present in Central Europe. All of these points point to a significant role for France, but I think Germany made a mistake. To give an analogy, there are women who cannot be bought, but can only be rented for a certain period of time. That is why there was a change of position here. Germany was firmly cooperating with Putin. We must also remember that in the process of this preparation, which was years, Putin, of course, negotiated, also visited Poland, met with then Prime Minister Tusk, and Tusk said about this that it was about the division of Ukraine. Assume that Putin only came to Poland? No, he also went to Hungary. In fact, we see this connection. If we look at it from that point of view, we see that this war is essentially not only a war against Ukraine, it is a war to eliminate all the countries of Central Europe, starting with Estonia, through Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Ukraine, and return to the system that existed in 1815-1914, when, on the one hand, and the other country had to persecute the occupied Slavic peoples of Central Europe in order not to create more attractive conditions for national consciousness to develop. That's how it looks, unfortunately. And so far, Putin's trump card is knowledge of this. He has documents, evidence. So right now, it's an incredible fear, on the one hand of Scholz, on the other hand of Orban. Macron has already switched sides. He wants to bring in troops. In fact, Trump may not have known about this. This all happened after 2020, after he was no longer president. Let me put it this way. I believe that the fact that he said, end the war in 24 hours, means that he got confirmation that Zelensky is ready to negotiate, ready to implement Trump's peace plan, and Putin refused to cooperate with him. Trump will push economically. Xi's invitation to the inauguration, Trump will try to impose sanctions and strong restrictions against Russia. Russia seems to realize this scenario because Putin is considering North Korea. He wants to be like Kim, transfer power within the family, support this criminal system by threatening to use nuclear weapons, and so on. In short, it will not be possible in 24 hours, but there will be strong economic sanctions. As for weapons, I believe that in the near future there will be a situation in which Ukraine will have enough weapons of its own production to solve such issues.
Я считаю, что скоро будет ситуация, в которой Украине хватит оружия собственного производства, чтобы решать этого типа.
Because what Zelensky was talking about, there is already industrial production of ballistic missiles that can hit at several hundred kilometers. All these technologies are available, all the necessary equipment is available, and mass production is underway. Soon this issue will no longer be the key issue. The main thing will be not to lose people. It's air defense, mines, policies that will limit Putin and very strong nuclear and economic sanctions. We'll be watching for that. I don't see any reason why Putin shouldn't use the mechanisms that the U.S. is running. One more point. Ukraine, Poland, the Baltic states are key partners of the United States because we are the only ones who do not allow old Europe to get involved with China and Russia to the exclusion of the United States. At the moment, if that were to happen, the United States would lose its global position. It's just something that Mackinder wrote about. It's the basis of American foreign policy. So there are no risks here. There will be support. Relations will be very good. I think there will be reforms inside the country, and there will be the most good positive things. Because some of the criminal democratic infrastructure that has been stealing funds meant for Ukraine will be removed. Finishing this motif about the involvement of old Europe, Germany, first of all, I want to say that these are shocking things that will not yet be true. Back to the truth. I can't imagine coexistence within a united Europe because I see it as a passive attack. And yes, and an encroachment on the independence of the country. I believe that if Putin had not attacked in 2014, occupied Crimea, and started the war in Donbass, the aggression would have been directed against Poland, because Ukraine would have been left in misunderstanding, and the issue would have been resolved in Poland. But after 2014, this became impossible, because if aggression against Poland had taken place, the blow would have come from Ukraine, and they would not have been able to do it. We can say that the most important thing is that all of Central Europe holds its independence thanks to the Ukrainian soldier, who truly defended our independence with his blood. The collusion was obvious to me, and the documents will be coming out soon. It would be better if the next German chancellor started with the truth. I believe that Germany and France will have to pay compensation to Ukraine for this war. Today I call it a contribution. And I believe that in order to go back and punish this policy, Germany should pay Ukraine $500 billion. That's the minimum for that policy and the irresponsibility that was shown. Thank you for the detail. Speaking of collusion, Fico, the Slovak Prime Minister who is in Brazil right now, said the following. The West may divide Ukraine along the lines of Czechoslovakia in 1938. To what extent are these screaming statements an attack on Ukraine's sovereignty? This is a manifestation of these sick ideologies. I have often said that Hungary has a talent for always joining the losing side, and the fact that it has introduced such a policy is a confirmation of that. I have said this. This applies to Hungary, this applies to Slovakia. This is stupid. They do not understand the potential of the Ukrainian people and have no idea what is happening here. I am in Kyiv and I see it. They have no basis to really look at things. There will be no partition. On the contrary, if partition does happen, if some sort of accountability is not made, it will lead to the collapse of the Union in Europe. What Germany did by cooperating with Putin, what Macron did, I think it is an international crime that needs to be investigated, apologized for, and forgiven. Because these are destroyed cities, these are dead people. And Ms. Merkel's book, in which she pretends to be an idiot, does not blur that fact. Everybody has seen it, and I think we need to understand that. Piotr also wanted to ask, one of the military publications states the following, that as an option, the U.S. could place its B-61 thermonuclear bombs in Ukraine or Poland to deter the Russian Federation. Are you even considering such options? Could there be such drastic steps under the Trump administration? I think along the lines of what President Reagan did, is it possible to start a war with Iran? How realistic is that? Well, look, Syria, Iraq, this is already a space in which there is stability. It will be created through negotiations and so on. But in all likelihood, the Russians will lose their bases. They will be forced to go with bragging rights. And they will ask Turkey to help them in this. There will be a repeat of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan with Russia's participation. The situation in Iran is unstable. This regime, which is covered by religious premises, is actually a country with young people, people who want freedom. I allow for a situation in which there will be a repeat of 1979. Just overthrow the Ayatollah and this whole totalitarian regime. That's a possibility. As for war, I think that option would be dangerous in terms of realizing Trump's strategic goals. He would be focused on China. If other countries support the uprising in Iran, then I think all of this will be approved. The key thing to look at is what is happening in Georgia and Armenia, because Russia needs to terrorize those countries to create an effective path of connection to Iran. What Putin tried to somehow create through Azerbaijan a month ago has proven impossible. If an uprising starts, it will be the same as in Syria. Russia will not be in a position to help, so it is likely that much will depend on Trump's meeting with Xi.
Потому что если начнется там восстание, будет то же самое, что в Сирии. Просто Россия окажется не в состоянии поддержать, помочь. Так что...
If they come to an agreement, then Xi will be forced to cut off aid for totalitarianism and international terrorism and drug trafficking and all that. Then maybe some sort of macroeconomic compromise will be found.
Прекратить помощь для тоталитаризмов и международного терроризма, наркотрафика, вот всего этого. И тогда
Similar to what the United States
какой-то макроэкономический компромисс по подобию того, что
made with Japan in the 80s.
в 80-х годах с Японией соглашение Плаза.
If not, then there will be sanctions on Chinese goods, the collapse of BRICS, and all the consequences, which will be tragic for China. China is getting ready. The 2025 budget already provides for huge funding, a fall in the currency. This whole scenario that we have been talking about is reflected today in the plans that Beijing is introducing in its domestic policy.
Весь этот сценарий, про который мы говорили, он сегодня находит отражение в тех планах, которые сегодня вводит Пекин во внутренней политике.
I am grateful to you for finding the time and opportunity to analyze geopolitical processes so clearly and professionally for us, for me, for the viewers. I very much hope that next time we will be able to talk and listen to you as well. Thank you. I want to add one thing. What you said about Germany. Germany is a very good neighbor for Poland. I am very grateful. I know many German politicians and so on. But these are narrow interest groups that pursue such an insidious, terrible policy that we see now. We will see it, there will be documents and so on. Just nothing personal here against the Germans. Absolutely. The people are exemplary, a good neighbor, and so on. This is what I wanted to add. Mr. Piotr, thank you very much.
Пане Петре, дуже велике вам дякую.